This story takes place about a year ago when we could still go out. I am standing in a small cemetery, wooden markers for the handful of graves, and in the center, there's a white stone obelisk, smooth sides taper to a point, and on the side facing me are painted three Japanese characters, black on white. I photographed this obelisk against a backdrop of blue sky and the snow-capped California Sierra Nevadas. It's beautiful. I turn away from the cemetery to face what remains of the concentration camp, Manzanar, a concentration camp in America, one of 10, built in the Western states in a frenzy of racist fear after Pearl Harbor during World War II. 120,000 Japanese Americans were just rounded up, guilty of no crime. Most were citizens. They were incarcerated in these camps, 10,000 at Manzanar alone. Some were held at Manzanar for as long as 3.5 years. The youngest upon arrival was 6 months old. Stones line the dirt roads. There's an orchard. Signposts tell me here was once a barracks, a mess hall, a guard tower where a soldier would have stood, his submachine gun at the ready. I drove up from Los Angeles last night, 200 miles, and I got a place to stay in Lone Pine, 10 miles south. And now it's early morning. I'm at Manzanar. I'm alone. But soon there'll be thousands of people here for the annual pilgrimage. Every year, folks from all over come here to make sure that this shameful slice of American history is not forgotten. And this year marks the 50th anniversary of that pilgrimage. It is April 27, 2019. Growing up back east in rural Pennsylvania, I don't ever remember learning about these camps. I think the first time I ever even heard about them was from Judge Ito. Remember him? He presided over the OJ trial in the 90s, so he was kind of a local celebrity in Los Angeles. I was curious about him, so I went to hear him speak in Little Tokyo, and he said how his grandfather was put into one of these camps, locked up. He lost everything, went bankrupt, and killed himself. And that was why Ito became a judge, so that the law could not be used against the innocent. And it was that night that I learned that one of these camps, Manzanar, not too far from LA, had been preserved and was open to the public. And I thought, well, that would be someplace that Japanese Americans would want to visit. I didn't think it had anything to do with me until Trump, until our immigration policy went from flawed to criminal. I volunteered to go with a carload of other older white ladies to an ICE detention center not far from LA. One of the women, I had gotten permission for us to go inside and talk to some of the women detainees to offer encouragement and support. And I think also to show them that, it's Trump and his followers who are locking people up. That's not who we Americans are. I thought, isn't it? Isn't that who we've always been? I mean, people who look just like us locked up people who look like Judge Ito. And I thought I would go to Manzanar. I thought I'd like to see that place for myself. And so I'm here in the cemetery. Nearby, there's a canopy over chairs and a stage because it's really hot. 10 a.m., it's already 90 degrees. There's an ambulance, there are paramedics, there are cases of bottled water, and busloads of people start arriving, thousands of people, and they are all Japanese American. There are just a few white people here, and I'm thinking, wait, am I intruding? We leave that canopied area for older people, and the rest of us stand out in the hot sun. And speeches begin. People get up on that stage and they say, never again, never again. And then this man, Bruce, gets up and he talks about how his mother was locked up at Manzanar. And when she was released, she led the effort to get that camp designated an historic site. And he says, with all due respect to my fellow speakers, it is happening again. We see immigrants put into these centers. We see children in cages. But this time is different. Because when my mother was locked up and all the rest, nobody spoke for them. Nobody fought for them. This time our community will not be silent. We will vote. We will organize. We will fight white supremacy. And I think how my grandfather was in the Klan, how my grandmother thought that Black people had different brains. They weren't human. I think that they would have been just fine locking up Japanese Americans in camps. A procession is forming. People are gathering near the stage. Each person takes a banner, 10 banners in all, one for each of those camps. And beneath the lettering, there's a number, the amount of people that were incarcerated there. The procession begins. It's coming toward me. It seems directed at me. Manzanar, 10,000. Tule Lake, Gila River, all the rest. And it seems to get hotter and hotter. And an older Japanese American man standing near me falls straight down to the dirt. 1 second he's up and the next he is down. And the paramedics come over. He is unconscious. They lift him up. His face is bloody. And I think, was it the heat? Or was it the sheer weight of everything that happened here and in those camps and in that man's life? And I think about something that happened when I was in high school. I went to an all-white school, 1,500 kids. Well, there was one Black student and 2 Japanese American students, a boy and a girl. And my senior year, a bunch of the football jocks all got together with their friends and they voted the Japanese American girl Sue onto the homecoming court as a big joke. And everybody knew it was a joke. And the girl knew it was a joke because, the girls on the court were, they were the popular girls, right? The tall, blonde girls, the cheerleaders and the baton twirlers. And Sue was just this quiet, shy, ordinary girl. So folks in the school administration, they put their heads together to try to figure out what to do. The boys would not be punished. Sue would decide whether to accept or decline position on that court. And she accepted. I think so that this cruel prank couldn't be swept under the rug. It was a tradition at our school that the homecoming girls would put on long gowns and they would climb up on top of these expensive rented cars that would drive them around the football field to show them off to the whole student body and to the faculty. And so those popular girls, they put on glittery gowns and they had, hair like Farrah Fawcett, and they climbed up on top of the cars. And then Sue had long, straight black hair, and she had a cheap, stiff black dress. And she climbed up on one of those cars. And she rode in that court. I knew her. She was in one of my classes. I did not reach out to her in any way. I don't think I ever spoke to her again. I wasn't directly responsible, but I was complicit in my silence. I did not speak up in any way against this horrific act of bullying, this labeling of a fellow student as not one of us. Manzanar has everything to do with me. And there should be busloads of white people here.